this is Dave Pryor. Welcome to The Reluctant Agilist. Today, we're going to talk all about connections and a tool that's been designed specifically to help you with that and your distributed teams, or even if you're in the same space, this will help you get to know people better and hopefully engage with them at work on a deeper level. So the folks that are with me are the founders of Cozy Juicy Real. So Jed and Sophia are here. Thank you for taking time out of your evening, because for you it's evening, even for me it's morning.
Happy to be here.
So before we get started, I want to talk all about the game and go through how it's going to help people foster better connections and the struggle they're having with being disconnected in a distributed environment. But how did you, what's your origin story? How did the two of you come together and create this amazing thing?
It's a good question. You want to take that one or you want me to?
I can try. You can chime in. We met, well, we're a couple. So we met in Bali, of all places. I was studying yoga, Jed was traveling, we met there.
Okay.
But in terms of the origin, because that's a story in itself. But in terms of the game, we were living together in London, and I'd say we both have always had a really deep interest in people, in coaching, in what makes people tick and what makes them happy. And so we're both coaches and group facilitators.
Okay.
That interest was long before we met. But yeah, when we got together, we realized that having conversations with our friends and family would sometimes be really interesting and sometimes be really boring.
Okay.
Or mediocre. Netflix, how's work, how are the kids.
Small talk stuff. Okay.
And so we kind of wondered, could we make this more consistent? Like, how can we have more interesting conversations always or more often than we do now?
So if I went to a family party and they're like, what route did you take to get here? I could just pull out a card and...
Even better.
Yeah. I don't know how I got here because I just did what my phone said, but let's talk about this. Okay.
So actually, it's funny to say that because years ago, long before Cozy Juicy Real, I tried to do exactly that, and it went horribly. I went to a party and people were like, "So, what do you do for a living?" That question, and I was like, "Well, actually, I have this deck of questions I just created. Would you like to choose one?" And that came off as really creepy.
I can see. So, maybe we can start there, because that the level of discomfort that comes for some people with those small talk questions. Like for me, if somebody's like, what do you think about this weather? Or like, what about this sports team? I'm like, I'd rather get a root canal than have that conversation. And you tried to do something to make it better, but why didn't that work in that environment?
I think that didn't work for a few reasons. Okay. One is that I didn't have buy-in.
Okay.
Right. And another is that at that point, I hadn't thought deeply about what makes conversations great.
Okay.
And what builds trust. And it took a few years of kind of fumbling around in that space before we got to something that does a smoother job at creating that.
Okay. So you solved that problem then of the small talk at the parties.
Well,
you only have dynamic, amazing, supportive family conversations now.
Not always, and I don't think that it's always the right time to do that. I think there is a space for smaller talk and updates. But in large part, we moved to Valencia on and off for the last year. And I went out for Christmas on my own. Jed was in the States visiting family and met a new group of friends. And, there was the very individual 2 people here, 3 people chatting there, 4 people chatting over there. And it was barely spoke to most people all night. And it got to a point where we were playing a little game, drinking kind of game. Not wild drinking. It was more like a tasting Spanish wines.
Adult drinking game.
Adult drinking game. And at that point, the girl who invited me knew about Cozy Juicy Real, and she said, why don't you bring it? And if we have time, we'll play it.
Okay.
And instead of playing the classic version of Cozy Juicy Reel, I kind of, proposed like, why? Because there was at least 12 of us, maybe 15 of us.
Okay.
And we can't really always play a board game with that many people, that's what you see. But I said, let's just do an adaptation of the game. And then we ended up talking for about 4 or 5 hours. We were there till 4 a.m.
Wow.
Having these amazing conversations. People, got teary. We all just, and everyone in the room was playing and talking and hanging out
really
together.
Cool.
It was like little,
and these were people that you weren't super familiar with before, like just with some of them, that sense of safety had to be created, right?
100%, yeah.
Okay.
And there's lots of mechanics that we kind of incorporated to create the safety.
Okay. So that's, we've obviously talked about the game before, and that's one of the things that I think is so appealing to me, is that it helps you get to know other people, but it also does it in a way that's not like, tell me your life story right now. Can you talk a little bit about the game and how it works and how it creates that sense of like easing your way into the pool?
Yeah, we were just talking earlier today about how we should have a YouTube channel, and we should have a little video to explain all of the mechanics that are built into the game and why they're there.
Okay.
Because they're subtle, but each of them has a purpose. So one of the things that we learned when we first started to do our research and build the first prototypes is that you want to warm people up. You want to have an organic deepening, right? Like you said, you don't want to go straight to, your life story. And so that's why there's Cozy, Juicy, and Real. Those are 3 different decks. So everybody starts by answering a cozy question.
Okay.
And then as you move around the board, you have the option, if you want, to pick a juicy question. And then eventually you can pick a real question. So it's always a choice. That's really important. So nobody's forced to answer questions they don't want. If you ever pick a question that you want to pass on, you can pass. And it starts by everybody sharing at a light level and then going along this journey together. So there's this natural organic deepening that happens, and people, I think, feel safe enough because the questions are built to be safe, that people can answer them in multiple ways. They can choose one that they want to share, they feel comfortable sharing. But also, as you go around the game board playing, you hear other people answer a question and they open up a little bit. And you're feeling a bit more safe because they've shared something about themselves. So you'll share a little bit more. And there's all these other, we'll get into it. We'll share our screens in a bit, like we talked about, and show some other mechanics, but there's all these other cards that are built in that are there to create affirmation.
Okay.
And so that people can share something that's real for them and that it's recognized. Oh, you just, Dave, we're playing together. You just shared something that's real for you. Right. And I get to then give you points and recognize that you went there. So that feels good for you. It feels good for me.
That's praise and reinforcement for being willing to be vulnerable, right?
That's the intention.
Okay. So I was introduced to you by Adam Weisbart, and because of that path, my assumption is that Adam is somebody who is very welcoming to like improv and collaboration and things like that. And I assume the same of you. And I come to that like I'm a brick wall. I am the guy that's like, you want to do a group activity? I'm like, no, let's connect. No, you connect with yourself. I'm fine over here all by myself. So how do you get the cranky people, cranky introverted, it's just safer here in my little box, people like me to open up to it? Because I'm assuming that while you are trying to foster collaboration with your teams, I'm probably one of the toughest customers, or maybe not. I don't know.
I have a couple of questions that come to my mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
One is, do you like games?
I do like games.
You do like games.
Some games.
Okay, that's my first question, because I think often people do like games and they're kind of curious, like, oh, it's a game. And it's something that we didn't touch on before when you said, something that didn't work when it's like, hey, I've got some questions. And that's always like this, like, oh, someone's going to ask me all these questions. versus, hey, do you want to play a game?
Yeah.
And makes it a lot easier. So it's a much easier to say, okay, we're playing a game. There's a winner. You get points. There's a bit of challenge.
Okay.
And I think that is one thing that's a huge
draw
and ease for people. Yeah. And I think with a game, the other thing that comes with that is that you're all on the same playing field. There's a set of rules that you're all abiding to, and there is a balance. So rather than kind of like feeling like there's the one person that talks a lot and the person that's really quiet, there's kind of like this facilitated journey that everyone has a bit of a voice. And like Jed said, there is still choice of how far to go in. So I think that's one of the main things I think people are drawn to in this experience. And that, I mean, we've had really great feedback from people who consider themselves introverts and don't really like to share about themselves.
Right.
And we share a lot of those kind of testimonials and reviews that people share. So I think that helps as well. I forgot my second question.
Well, I'll just comment on one thing. So for the people that are watching or listening that are kind of like me, I mean, you said, do I like games? And I do. I enjoy certain kinds of games. I'm happy to sit down and play like Catan or Risk or Monopoly. But if you ask me to play In Cahoots, do that, so I'm like, no interest in that at all. But a game like Trivial Pursuit, something like that, where I am able to kind of earn stuff and compete against other people, and maybe even like Pandemic, where I can work collaboratively with people, something where I have to invest myself. It's not just like a quick, I'm getting a point here. Like that is something that is appealing to me. But what's neat to me is that the sort of the thoughtfulness that's gone into creating this space, like, giving the awards to people for being open, having them step by step get into a deeper level of engagement. That's a really powerful thing that it seems to me like most games just bypass that. You're just expected to show up and be all in right out of the gate. Well, while you think of did you think of the second question yet, or
it hasn't come back to me?
Okay,
but I'm
sure. So can we look at the game and maybe you can kind of use me as an example and take me through some of these questions?
Yeah.
We can show people what it's like to play.
So you are looking at a game board for 4 people. And
do you have to have 4? Do you have to have 4? Can you do it with less?
No, the online game is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the in-person game is the same. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to go first, second, or third?
I will go however you want me to. I can barely see the screen behind all the cameras and lights. So I'm going by whatever you tell me to do.
All right. So do you want to go first?
I'll go first, yeah.
All right. Jed's going to be playing number 1. Yeah.
What is that a picture of?
You are this little gecko, I guess.
Oh,
we're not
sure
if it's a gecko or a frog.
All right. I'm a reptile, some kind of reptile. That's good.
I'm the horse with the hair, and Sophia's the bunny.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So like I was saying before, everybody starts with a cozy card. Yeah. And let's go into it. So I'm first. I'm player number 1. So my question is, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up, and why? I was one of those people that changed year to year. What did I want to be? It changed often, but one of those consistent threads for me was that my dad was a psychiatrist.
Okay. And
his dad was also a psychiatrist.
Oh my gosh.
And so a part of me thought I would grow up to be a psychiatrist. And that didn't work out for me, because I took my first biology class at university and immediately knew that pre-med
was going to happen for you.
It's going to kill me. So I'm not a psychiatrist.
Okay.
All right. And Jed gets to move one space around the board and collect 30 points. So there you go, Jed.
I just went, yeah.
And you got points.
And I got points. I got 30 points for answering a cozy question.
Okay.
Dave, I want to ask you, what about you?
Batman.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Batman. I still want to be Batman. That's never changed since I was like 2.
And why?
Because Batman's super awesome. Because he's got the cave, and I have a whole thing I do in class about Batman. I actually met Adam West one time, and it ruined my childhood. I've just always thought that Batman was about the coolest thing you could ever be. He's got everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Except emotional and mental peace. But when you're like a little kid, you don't think about that. You just want the car and the belt and the cape.
Car, belt, cape, happy.
That's all you need. Yep. And somebody to make you sandwiches, which he has that too. So it's all good. What about you, Sophia?
Oh, you're giving me a what about you card. What did
I? Is that actually a card? I didn't even.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. All right. I just
gave you points.
Thank you.
What about me? I wanted to be an actress. Okay. And I absolutely loved going to drama school. I loved dancing. I loved singing. I even cut my hair once like Michael Jackson and did a whole performance for my family. I made videos, which I still have. And I don't even know if I can bring myself to watch them because I think it would be so cringeworthy. But yeah, I had a lot of fun. And I went to drama school for years until college, UK college, not American college. I went to college, and then I very quickly realized that when you do it as a job, it's extremely competitive, and I didn't enjoy it anymore. So
that was me with music. I wanted to be a musician until college, and after 1 year, I was like, no.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I was like, no, I love this. I want to keep loving it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, no.
All right. Do I have to give you points now? Is that how this works?
You did. I moved the what about you card to me.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now, do I have to am I next?
Yeah. Would you like? Well, usually we would all get cozy, and you're welcome to get a cozy card. For the purposes of this little
demoing, I should go to Juicy
session. Yeah, you want to get Juicy?
Sure.
All right, here is a Juicy show and tell. In the room you're in now, what's an object that holds meaning for you, and what
Hold
makes...
on a second.
People immediately have something.
This is a guitar that I just bought for myself, and I'm very excited about it.
Wow.
It's a Mule resonator, a Mavis resonator. So it's an electric guitar with a resonator cone.
That is beautiful.
Yeah, it is. And I'm very excited about that. So it's a big deal for me because it is, I've been playing since I was 12, and that is the first real super high quality musical thing I've ever bought myself. So big commitment and big acknowledgement of the fact that I've been doing this for so long. So
thank you for sharing.
That was an easy one though.
You get 40 points and you get to move 5 spaces.
And I want to ask you a go deeper question.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my go deeper card. You've been playing music for a long time.
Yeah.
I'm guessing it the word resonates. So it resonates with you at a deep level. Yeah, what about it do you love? What is it?
So it's evolved for me since I was a kid. First, it was just I wanted to meet girls, and that was the easiest way to do it, was just play guitar. I didn't have to talk to them. But now I haven't played in front of people in 20 or 30 years. For me, it's a more sort of meditative activity. So the playing is something I do every day for a couple hours. And no matter how bad a day I ever have, it makes it better. It's just a way of being creative and having a place to myself doing a thing that I love doing. And I think the other thing about it is that no matter how long you've been playing, the guitar is always trying to teach you something, if you're willing to let it. And so I love the fact that there's this open-ended thing that I'll never be as good as I want to be. I'll never know as much as I want to know. And that's totally cool, because that's not what it's about. It's just about sitting there and letting the creative stuff happen. And the fact that I don't capture it for other people. It's just a thing I do for myself. So it's like a gift to myself every day.
You're getting a high five from me. How can you not?
I'm going to give you a high five as well, and I'll tell you why. It's because I think that in this day and age, and this is a trap that I fall into,
right?
Is a sense that whatever I'm spending my time on, it should be something productive. It should be something that leads to something. There should be an output. And what I love about what you just shared is that it's enough that you're doing something that's just feeding you, something that you enjoy, that's just pure in the creativity realm.
Yeah. Well, is it okay to keep talking about this for a second? Because this is, so I am one of those productive people too, and it's taken me a long time to realize that part of maintaining the machine of me being able to be productive is protecting time for those other things. It's like fuel, right? Without that, I am not able to show up the same way. So it's selfish, and it's also meant to help me be able to be there for other people better, I guess. But I appreciate all the affirmations. And it was a good question too. Was it that what's neat about that is because, like you said, I can answer it any way I want, and it allows me to reveal a little bit of myself in a way that I'm not uncomfortable with. And I can decide how far I want to go, right? And it's that to me is a really neat aspect of how you're creating safety for people. All right.
That's what we hope we're doing.
All right.
So now you have to go to the juicy or the real card, right?
Sure. I'll get to the real card. Well, what do we have? Oh, what's something beautiful in your life right now? And what about it are you appreciating? So many things. I am particularly enjoying particularly my niece, but generally my sister has 3 kids and my other sister has a kid.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I don't live in the same city or country as them. But when I do spend time with them, I make an effort to spend as much time as I can with them. And we have a very close relationship with the 3 kids that are in Cyprus. They're a little bit older than the one in London, so we've spent a lot more time with them. Okay. And one of them, Amelia, she calls me almost every day to catch up and to practice, because she likes gymnastics. So we practice together, doing exercises and making her stronger and even better. And it's just, it just means a lot to me, because I think that it's one of those things that I fear that because I'm not around, they won't know me in that way. They won't consider me like a close person in their life. And I don't want to lose the connection that we have. And I think that having those regular connecting regularly, whether it's over Zoom or whatever, that will maintain that relationship. I want them to be able to call on me if they need something, or, confide in someone. So that is something that's beautiful in my life right now.
That's cool. So I have a question about this part of it. There's a part of me that feels compelled to ask you more questions, because you both asked me more questions. And there's another part of me that feels like not really ready to do that yet. How often does it happen that somebody's just like, I know some people that would feel like this was the part to go deep, and just not even knowing you start asking you all kinds of intensive questions, because that's their way of winning the game. How do you socially regulate that kind of stuff? Does that happen a lot, or are people generally pretty cool with it?
So I'm not sure if you can see the board.
Barely.
You only get one Go Deeper card
Okay.
for the whole game, and there's for any Go Deeper card, you can only get 2 questions.
You go on and zoom into
I can zoom
interaction cards.
So you can see here where the card says Go Deeper. Play this card anytime to ask another player 1 or 2 follow-up questions.
Okay.
And then, like we've mentioned before, if you're giving the card, you are giving points. And if you don't use the card by the end of the game, you lose points. So you're incentivized to use them.
Oh, okay.
You also have a limit of using them so that you use them wisely.
Am I giving my own points or just giving points out of like this?
You're giving points that are either minus, so you're actually putting yourself in plus by giving them.
Okay.
Because if you didn't use that card,
then
you'd have to
minus.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
So by giving people only a certain number limits how many questions get asked and things like that.
Okay. And the high five card is a congratulations card. What's the courage card for?
Let me go up here and we can. So high five is to show appreciation. The courage card is when someone, shares something that might have taken courage, or they might share a story that clearly showed courage. But it's a way to really recognize someone for maybe getting a bit more real than normally.
So
we used that one earlier. The what about you?
You're gamifying the opening up and the willingness to be vulnerable to other people.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you explain how the slices work in the little, because they look almost like the Trivial Pursuit pies?
Oh, right. So we've been breaking the rules playing with you, because like Sophia was saying, normally everybody gets cozy. We do a whole round of cozy.
Yeah.
And then you start moving around the board and you get the option. So like Sophia, she's the little bunny.
Okay.
So she's on a space that's green and orange. So now she could choose, say it's the second round, if she wants to get cozy or juicy, and she gets more points for getting juicy. And then you're on a space that's green and red. So then you could pick cozy or real.
Okay. And not that I want to win, because I think it sounds to me like the win is the conversation, but how do you win? You're like, I'm more open than everyone here.
And then you flip over the board and run away.
I win. Game over. Yeah. Pour my
that's
drink
how it works.
Totally how it works.
So you win obviously by getting the most points, but how do you do that? You win by answering juicy and real questions, and also by collecting the most purple cards.
Okay.
So by opening up a little bit, and then by using your purple cards, by using those interaction cards, giving them to other characters, really engaging and interacting at a high level.
Yeah.
Because those dock from your points if you don't use them. So we built the points so that if you don't use at least a majority of those, it's very difficult to win the game.
Okay. And what is the lightning bolt?
Yeah, so the lightning bolt and the random, they're kind of more like fun activities for the group.
Okay.
We introduced random because we noticed that in conversation and when we did interviews, asking people, what makes a conversation great is having like a bit of a kind of a journey, like a roller coaster of like a bit of laughter, a bit of serious, it's all of the emotions that kind of make a conversation really awesome.
Yeah.
And so random, we introduce those kind of to bring a bit of play, shake up the energy. Sometimes it might be a little bit more physical. But it kind of spices up the game a little bit. And then the lightning round are the end game round. So here, when the first person hits the lightning bolt, everyone enters lightning round. And that's a fun guessing game. So after you've had a good hour learning about everyone in the group a little bit, you get to guess about them. So I'll give you an example. All right, maybe I can try and guess about Dave. If Dave were to receive one of the following gifts, which would he choose? Number 1, a lipstick pink Lamborghini.
Can you see these options, Dave?
I can. Yes, I'm looking around the stuff.
Number 2, a fancy treehouse library. Number 3, a backyard disco roller skate rink. Or 4, a treasure chest of the latest tech gadgets. Now, this is a tough one because you are sitting in a room full of books, which makes me think you'd go for the treehouse library. However, you might be like, well, I've already got my library. I want the roller skate rink or the latest tech gadgets. So this is a tough one. I'm going to go with the fancy treehouse library where you can read. And
That's what I would pick. That's 100% right.
Sophia got the points.
I think the treasure chest of gadgets would only be like brand new for a little while. The roller skating rink is going to take me back to the anxiety of Young's Regency skating rink when I was in 7th grade and afraid to ask Andreas Breiter to skate with me. So I want nothing to do with that. And I definitely would not know what to do with a Lamborghini. I'd drive like a little old lady going to church. So, but the books would last forever. That would give me lots of places to go and lots of great things to do. That's pretty cool. I have a question about this. So this seems to me to be a great way to get a distributed team or I mean, even a team in the same space, get people to open up to one another, which might not directly, like, Jed, you mentioned the productivity thing. I can see where somebody said this isn't productive time, but it is helping people connect on a level that will amplify their ability to work together on things. I can also see where I would use this game and play to lose, because it would really be about me not getting points so much as it would be drawing people out and seeing how much I could get them to be willing to feel comfortable to open up. Not in a manipulative way, but just try to get to know them better. Like almost like a spy isn't the right word, but if I'm playing with people, I'm trying to get to know them. And I guess I'm trying to get them. It seems to me like you would come into it wanting to introduce yourself to people or get to know them better. Or do you both play it to do both? Probably play it to do both.
Well, I mean, my curiosity about people is getting to know them. I feel like I know a lot about myself. I always think other people are more interesting. But I mean, the way you just described it, you say, I'd play to lose, but I'd be wanting to get to know them. You would probably end up winning.
It's true.
Oh, okay.
Because that's how the game is built, is when you're curious about other people and when you're wanting to get to know them, you're giving them
what about you?
The what about you cards, the purple cards, and so you might inadvertently be the winner.
That's fun.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, the interest in the game, the reason why I still love playing it is that I just enjoy people. I'm not naturally good at getting to know people, right? Some people I click with naturally, a lot of people I don't. And so having a tool like this is an amazing excuse to get to know people and get to hear stories about them and get to learn things that I'd never get to learn about them otherwise.
Would you mind talking a little bit, because we talked about that in the pre-interview, if you're willing to share a little bit more about that, like the building rapport thing and how Sophia is with it compared to how you are, because that was really compelling to me when we were talking before. And I think
what I was sharing is that, I mean, I see Sophia as one of those rare people who's really good at connecting with a lot of people. And I think it's an amazing skill, right? She can just like sit down with just about anybody and just have a really like wonderful, fun interaction with them.
Right.
And I can do that sometimes. and then sometimes it's just like a little bit awkward, right? Not for lack of trying. It's just that doesn't come naturally to me. Yeah. And like I was saying a moment ago, it comes naturally with some people. Sometimes there's natural chemistry, but sometimes they're not. So I've always, Sophia and I have been in a relationship for almost 8 years now. And I've been studying Sophia and what Sophia does. And I've learned a lot about, these unconscious, just natural things that she does. It helps, go deeper. And there's actually a lot. And I mean, some of that is built into the game, but some of that maybe is for Code's Juicy Reel 2.0.
Oh, you're already teasing the next round. So, Sophia, do you ever, how do you feel about all this? I mean, does that resonate with you as well? Do you like, I can do that, and you watch him and you're like, oh, like.
No.
Yeah, you do.
Like,
sometimes
awkward.
I crack jokes. Sometimes, I crack
That's
jokes,
true.
and I can have a very dry sense of humor.
Not
and she's like there to clarify. She's like, oh, that was a joke.
Just so you know. Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I never knew Jed was studying me. And do I agree? I mean, I do think that I quite naturally connect with people, and I think it's one of the reasons I so love creating the game, because it kind of takes it out of me, and it lets this like thing happen without anyone having to be there.
You don't have to work at it. It happens by itself. Okay.
Exactly. And yeah, I think I've just always been really curious about people. I've been very comfortable. I think I'm also comfortable opening up. So it kind of makes that easier. I don't have any like fear of being vulnerable. And yeah, I'm not sure, because I think, like Jed said, it's very unconscious. I don't think I was aware that I had skills, if you will.
Wow.
That now I'm more aware of, but yeah.
Okay. Now you're gonna be like hyper aware of it all the time. Like, oh,
I know,
what did
and
I do?
Like, wait, Jed watching me? Jed studying
Well,
me?
to me, that's a really important part of this, because whether, like for you, as somebody who naturally just maybe unconsciously creates rapport. I mean, you did it with me in that first call. Like, it was like, I was like, wow, that was like super coach right there. Or if you're somebody who has to, I mean, I've had people that I've interacted with where I'm just like, there's two people I've worked with where I'm like, I can't be around these people. Like, we just channels don't meet at all. And it's not like animosity, we just don't communicate. But whether it's something where I have to like work at it and think about it, or it's just not happening, this would allow me to kind of like get on the ride and let the ride do the work so that I can learn and share. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to create for teams, because what you just described, I think, that's the status quo. That's normal. That there's always going to be people on your team. They're more extroverted. They're more introverted. Things you have in common with some people, and some people that you've tried to connect with them, and it's not happening. And I think it's especially easy working remotely to just give up pretty quickly with those people that you don't naturally connect with, because it's exceedingly awkward on Zoom to try to connect with somebody where it's not there. And so you pull back and that other person pulls back, but there's a loss there, because you are on a team and you are going to be working together. And so by having something to come together on, it's important not only to smooth out conflict, which is inevitable, but also so that everybody, enjoys the team that you're on, because you end up spending so much time with the people that you work with. So having a good relationship with them, I think, is a quality of life thing.
And also, I think the cognitive burden of trying to like push yourself, like, oh, I have to develop rapport with that person now. What am I going to do that? Like, this will kind of create the runway for you, and it lets you to focus on other things like listening and watching and all that stuff. Make it a lot easier. Trying to think of all the things to hit that will make people want to kind of sign up for it when it comes out on March 28th, right? That's when they can officially subscribe. How is that part going to work?
That is a good question. So the March 28th is for the physical version of the game.
Okay.
Friends, family, strangers, whoever can play like physically.
Okay.
And so we're really excited about that, because we recognize that even in families and in like friend groups, or like I was saying earlier, we've moved to a new city and we're still making new friends, and it just makes it so much easier
Yeah.
So we wanted to kind of create that for people as well. But yeah, I think
But the electronic version's available then already, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's pitch that.
let's go there. So yeah, it's an online hosted experience, and we host it for teams all over the world.
Okay.
So people can, even if it's before March 28th, people can bring Cozy Juicy Real to their team if they'd like to.
Okay, so this would be like I in class, I teach CSM and CSPO classes, and I often talk about an activity that you do at the end of the sprint after the retrospective to kind of help the team let go and reset or celebrate or whatever. This would be a great activity for a team to use either in the retrospective or after the retrospective to strengthen their connection with one another. And all they need, distributed or not, all they need is Miro. It's Miro, right? Not Miro right there. Okay. So they would go to Cozy Juicy Real and they would sign up there.
Yeah, they can go to cozyjuicyreal.com.
Okay.
And sign up there and we'll send the details.
Now, do I sign up for my team, or does everybody have to sign up individually?
You sign up and you would schedule a time. Mm-hmm. And then your host would show up with the Zoom link, and you'd be there. Your team would be there, and then everybody would get to play at the same time.
So you act as hosts for the game. It's not like I'm hosting it. You would be hosting it. Is that right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Okay, all right. So that, I guess, and that's another way of kind of moderating and keep it from going sideways too, is that you're there with people.
Well, we're there to introduce the game and to teach, and we do a check-in as a group. Okay. So that means if there are larger groups who want to play, we can put them into breakout rooms, so they can all play at the same time, or a small team can also play. And then we stay in the main room for the game because we've recognized that even through playtesting and facilitating online, is that when there are other people in the room that are not on the team, that it changes the energy, it changes the vibe. And we want, again, it's like creating that safety and that freedom to kind of share openly. We want to take ourselves out of the room. So we create breakout rooms and we stay in the main room in case anything is needed. And then at the end, we kind of do a checkout debrief as a group or as a bigger team.
And how long does it take to play for a group of like 7 people? Well, that's too many for a group of 4, right? You can have 4 or 6. It goes up to 8. We actually get done teams of 10. Sometimes when it's like a leadership team, they want to play together. But average group size is 4 to 6. And that is typically between 60 and 90 minutes, depending on how much time they have and how many people there are. So that's the kind of average. Cool. And so the board game, the physical version, is coming out or the Kickstarter kicks off on the 28th.
Yes.
Okay. And so by the time this launches, I'll have a link in the show notes where people can go and sign up for that. And they can also go to cozyjuicyreal.com to learn more about it and sign up for the electronic version.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you want to talk about your month of collaborative interactivity? I don't know what.
Happily.
Should I stop sharing?
Yeah, sure. So as part of the Kickstarter campaign, we thought, what would be the coolest gift that we could give, and what we're offering is an event called Connect Fest. So it's going to be a month of online events, totally free, all themed around connection and authenticity and
play.
And play. Yeah. Play. I was gonna say playfulness. So there'll be Cozy Juicy Real games as part of that, but we're also inviting people who've created conversation decks. There's all these fun conversation decks that people have created over the years, and a lot of those people are also skilled facilitators, so they'll be facilitating their own workshops. And there might be people there to talk about just like we talked about at the beginning. How do you bring, without a game, without a conversation deck, how do you bring a conversation from small talk to something that's more interesting for both people? So we'll have a website and we'll send you the link to that for Connect Fest.
Okay, cool. Now with the small talk, just to kind of go all the way back to the small talk thing,
Yeah.
I am terrible at that, and my daughter is also terrible at it, and neither one of us has any tolerance for it. But it is a necessary ability to develop. So, is that something that either of you can offer some suggestion on? Like, if I'm with people that I don't know, a brand new team, and I'm somebody who is not good with the small talk, like, how do you develop that ability to banter back and forth with people? Like, where do you get good at that?
It's a good question.
Or do you just like, whatever, let's play the game? That's easy.
Well, I mean, I have an answer. I mean, maybe you do too.
Mine may be different.
Okay. I think a little bit of structure goes a long way.
Okay.
So if you're part of a new team, or if you're part of an existing team, but you don't know each other well, like you said, you just don't connect easily on that small talk level. Suggesting a little bit of structure, like, and this is something our team does, a 3-word check-in, right?
Okay.
How are you doing? I'm feeling, curious, tired, whatever.
Gassy, whatever.
Yeah, of course, every day. So it's a way to just to share a little bit about what's going on.
Okay.
And that kind of can start the engine. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you can start to introduce other questions. It's Friday. What's one thing you're looking forward to over the weekend?
Okay.
And you can build on these questions so that over time, you can get to know each other a bit better in a non-game, non-card deck kind of format. And then I think naturally, when you do that for a while, more interesting conversations will just naturally happen.
Yeah.
It won't take the effort because the rapport will be there.
Okay. All right. And
well, I'll tail up on that is, if you wanted us to share just a few of those prompts, we're happy to do that. You can include that. Some of our prompts that we use in our check-ins.
Yeah.
So my answer is that I like to build on small talk. I'm a kind of build on the small talk thing. So if it's like I don't know, what's a classic small talk? How's the weather? I might then ask more about that. Or like, what kind of weather do you like? And why do you like it? Or I don't know. I will
an example,
kind of
I was thinking the same thing when Jed was talking, and the weather one to me is like pretty much a dead stop. And you're like, well, what's your preference, cirrus or nimbus clouds? But if you said, do you have plans for the weekend? That invites them to share a little bit more, right?
Right.
Like each question is to get you to the next question. It's that infinite game thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So building on.
Do you find, either of you, that when you're doing that, I know people that use it almost as like a mechanism where they ask more questions so they don't have to answer questions?
Mm.
I'm guessing probably neither one of you does it. Yes. Tell me more. No, but I know people who, when you meet them, they will just constantly pepper you with questions, and you don't get to hear anything about them because they're so busy asking questions. So
there's all sorts of reasons that they could be doing that.
That's true.
It could be just that they are very curious. It could be that maybe they're uncomfortable with silence, so they're just
they could be waiting for a question back.
Yeah, could be waiting for a question back,
or trying to avoid questions,
or trying to
avoid questions. Trying to avoid the question.
Yeah. So I guess that's another thing with this that it opens up, is just that curiosity about not just what's their answer, but why is it going the way it's going.
And that's something I've observed, going back to that piece around that Sophia does, that why piece, that asking, and something I see Sophia do often is she'll ask a question that takes a little bit of courage to ask, because it's a little bit non-normative. Right. Because the normal thing to do is to ask what somebody does for a living. Right. Or the normal thing to do is, what's the weather, where you are. But I think paying attention to our natural curiosity, and rather than pushing that aside and labeling that as, oh, that's a question it's not appropriate for me to ask.
Yeah.
Just trying it out and seeing where it goes.
something else that's coming up as you're saying that is it's also reading people, because it's not always for everyone. I think that's got to be said, is that Code's Juicy Real or getting deep and having those meaningful conversations isn't everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. Really, like, the game and the purpose of coaching is really about bringing out someone's true self and allowing them to be them. And so I never want to like force someone to be that person, but it's giving people an opportunity, if they want to open up and to share themselves. Because I think often we're afraid to, we don't have permission to do that.
Right.
Or you think it's inappropriate, like, oh, I shouldn't really share this with the team. Like, this is work. I can't share about what's going on in my life. And so I think just giving space and giving people permission is a really powerful thing, and allowing them to show up as much as they want.
So you just introduced, at least in my head, 2 other uses for your game. So one would be, if I'm a coach that's trying to get more skillful with the way that I ask questions or the questions that I ask, and then holding a space for other people to fill. Like, if that's something that is not something I have ease with, then this would be an opportunity to practice it. Also, maybe from a social engineering perspective, if I'm just trying to get better at quickly building rapport and asking questions, or asking, instead of like, how's the weather, like whatever weird off the wall question you think will, like, crack the shell and get the person to answer. I mean, there's a lot that you can do with this game in terms of building your ability as somebody who's interacting with other humans. Sorry if those were 2 not healthy uses of your game.
Totally. Makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, I appreciate you making time for this. So cozyjuicyreal.com, they can go to it. They can sign up now for the Miro version. On March 28th, they can go and they can sign up for Kickstarter to buy into the physical game. And you're going to have all the details about that month of connection events on your website. And I'll make sure we include a link to that. What if they want to get in touch with you directly to ask questions about the game or about collaboration or connection? What's the best?
They can email us.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and I'll send you the email if they want to do that. No, that's probably the best way.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, I'll put links to those in the show notes. And thank you both very much for this. This was really fun.
It's been
And
fun
for creating this game.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
If you learn to work the old way, but the new way is what you need, my job.